we're going to get into talking about lifespan development, chapter 9. So developmental psychology is the branch of psychology that studies the patterns of growth and change that occur throughout one's lifetime. So we're constantly changing from conception. So when we're still in the womb, right, we're a tiny little zygote egg. We're developing and we're changing. A lot of change happens in the womb before you're even born. And that continues all the way until you take your last breath. So humans, as human beings, we are constantly growing and changing throughout our entire lifespan. And developmental psychology studies this constant change by investigating the interaction between our biology and the environment around us. Okay. And this change is inevitable, really. It happens to everyone. No one is exempt from this change in some way, shape, or form, right? The only question is if it's continuous change, that is, it's constantly happening throughout our lives, or if the change happens in discrete periods of our development. So those questions are things that the developmental psychologists sort of investigate, right? And they actually hone in on two very specific questions when they're looking at growth and development of humans and how this occurs throughout our lifetime. So first they ask how our genetic background affects our behavior. And also, how does our environment, the world we live in, affect our development? So we're looking at both the role of nature and nurture, right? Environment and your biology. How do these two things interact? Because at this point, in psychology and in science in general, we know that it isn't only biology, right? That's not the only determining factor. We also know it's not only the environment, right? So it's not also only the environment factors. It's the interaction between these two things. It is part your biology, it is part what you're made up of, but it also is influenced by the variables that are around you in your environment, okay? So it's both of these things, and developmental psychology really look into how this interaction works. So let's talk about the stages of development. Okay, so we have the first stage of development, which is prenatal development. So even before you're born, you are developing and you're still exposed to an environment. Okay, so you still have biology and you still have an environment. Your mom's womb, right, the placenta, the uterus, that's your environment. That is where you spend the first portion of your life, your growth, and your development.